We asked storytellers to select a type of story and some words to inspire the stories that they tell.
There was a swashbuckling girl named Lee. Lee sailed on the high seas alone. She knew how to manage a sailboat. She knew when you're supposed to change the sails and when you're supposed to just glide along. And she swashbuckled. That means she had a sword, she had a pirate shirt. She said, "I matey" to herself, which some people think was a little sad, but she thought it was very entertaining. And one day while she was on the high seas, the storm started to settle in. She saw the clouds go gray, roll over her head. She saw the waves start to curl and buckle under. She did not get scared. She said, "I know how to ride this out." She said, "It'll be okay. I'm gonna manage the sails. I'm gonna crawl under deck, and I'll get where I need to go." I don't advise that you do this at home, but that's what Lee did, and she survived. She was in the bottom of the ship and she was knocking around, and for most of us, for me certainly, that would be terrifying, knocking your head against the wood deck. But she just kept going. She said, "It's fine, I know this will work. I've done it before a million times, no problem." All of a sudden, she felt the waters calm underneath her, finally. And she decided she would crawl up, see what was going on outside. And as she was opening the hatch door to get back on deck, she felt this big thump, and she felt like she was hitting something. So she crawled up and she saw, actually she hit an island. This was not just some shipwreck kind of island. It wasn't just sand and driftwood, no. She saw magnificent palm trees and green bushes and flowers of every color, and she looked up, and at the top of the hill she saw what might have been a castle. It might have just been a really nice house. I think a castle usually means that someone royal lives there, and she didn't have enough information at that point to know. And she was debating whether she should try to make nice or if she should try to rob them. So she decided she'd climb up that hill and see what she could find. So she did, and she saw at the entry to the back door, because you have to, when you're on an adventure like this, you have to scope out the back door. That's how you really know what's going on in the ins and the outs of these big houses. You check what's going on with the servants and what their task was doing. So she crawled behind a bush and she watched as servants came in and out of the house. And she saw one doing laundry, and she saw one collecting fruits and vegetables, and she saw one with a huge stack of papers. Papers, that is unusual in a house like this. That's not what I usually see. Usually it's food, fancy clothes, jewelry, pretty, silly kind of things. I don't know why anyone would need such finery, but paper, that's interesting. Maybe there's a writer here, something. So she was like, okay, I'm gonna go in. I'm not gonna rob these people. I want to know more about them. So she goes into the castle, crawling behind the servant with the stacks of paper. And this is old-timey kind of paper, the kind that looks like it was dyed by tea with the burnt edges and everything. It's really intriguing for a pirate. And she gets to this bedroom at the very top of the house. And the servant goes in, Lee's at the door watching. The servant goes in and hands this young lady, this stack of papers, and the young lady is sitting at her desk, like in her nightgown, and she says to the servant, "Why, thanks. This is exactly what I was praying for this morning." And the servant says, "Mm-hmm," and leaves. And Lee is still watching, and somehow the servant hasn't spotted her because, she's been carrying heavy paper, she just doesn't care. And Lee looks into the room and sees this lady has the most magnificent eyeballs. See, the color of her eyes were not what you usually imagine. Usually you think someone has brown eyes or blue eyes or green, but hers were all those colors mixed together like in a swirl. And Lee was just so intrigued by this lady. And the lady said, "I feel a presence." And Lee went in and they chatted, became friends, and Lee took the writer out on the high seas. And then she had finally had something great to write about. The end.